They thought he was just another human, another soft target, another problem easily erased. The aliens who ruled the Zareth sector didn't fear humans anymore. Not since Earth fell 50 years ago. Humans had scattered, hunted, broken, no army, no leaders. Only whispers remained of what they once were. So when a patrol ship caught a human working in the mines of Tau 13, they didn't ask questions. They dragged him out, accused him of smuggling forbidden tech, and executed him on the spot. No trial, no name asked. Just a stun shot to the head. Cold. Quick. The body hit the dirt. The guards laughed and walked away, but they didn't know what they had done. They didn't know who he really was. 2 days later, everything began to fall apart. First, the mine's power grid failed. Then the security drones exploded from the inside, melted like someone had reprogrammed them. Next, one of the patrol guards went missing. His armor was found, still warm, but his body was gone. Panic started to grow. Commander Relvek of the Zareth. Enforcers slammed his fist on the table as reports flooded in. "How does this happen?" he shouted. "A human miner? This was supposed to be simple." His officers remained quiet. They had watched the execution. The man hadn't resisted. He had said nothing, but just before he was shot, one officer remembered something. The human had looked up, just for a moment, and smiled. Not a smile of fear, a smile of warning. Relvek reviewed the footage, zoomed in, froze the frame. That smile, it was wrong. It wasn't fear or madness. It was calm. Cold. Like someone who knew exactly what would happen next. And then they found the message. Burned into the metal wall of the mine's sleeping quarters was a sentence in Old Earth language, written with what looked like the laser, end of a broken drill. "You took the wrong one." Relvek's blood ran cold. Across the Zareth military base, alarms started to scream. Ships vanished from radar, outposts went dark. And in each place where chaos struck, one symbol appeared, an Old Earth military mark, long banned and forgotten, GDF Galactic Defense Force. The humans were supposed to have no army left, no command, no tech, but now it looked like they had something worse. They had a ghost. The man they killed. His name was hidden from every file, every database, no birth record, no ID, just a code name, long buried by time, Kane 17. He wasn't a smuggler. He wasn't a worker. He was one of Earth's last Black Ops soldiers, a weapon in human skin. And now his death had triggered something deep, silent, and deadly. The aliens had expected silence after the execution. Instead, they got a whisper that shook the stars. Kane's old allies, wherever they had been hiding, were now moving. From the gas cities of Vornak to the floating ruins of Earth's moons, signals lit up. Silent codes, hidden channels, activation commands. Across forgotten bunkers and buried labs, human machines came to life. And not just machines, people, survivors, soldiers, in hiding. They had waited for a sign, and now they had one. The Zareth had killed the wrong man, and that was about to become the galaxy's biggest mistake. In the shadows of Tau 13, a figure moved silently across the rocks. The guards didn't. See him? The sensors didn't beep. He moved like smoke, like memory. He didn't wear armor. He didn't carry a flag. But in his hand was a blade, a human blade, forged from the remains of Earth's last satellite. And in his heart was something colder than vengeance. A message. He whispered it before. He struck. "You should have left us alone." The first guard dropped, then the second. No alarms, no cries, just silence. And in the control room, just as Commander Relvek looked up at the security screen, he saw it. That smile again. Not a face, just a shadow, watching, waiting, and now, hunting. The shock was just beginning. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but humanity was back. And this time they weren't asking for peace. They were delivering a message. One execution had started it all. One smile had warned them. And one by one, the stars would learn. They made a mistake, a human mistake. Darkness spread across the Zareth sector, not from space, but from fear. The news of the dead guards, the destroyed drones, and the missing command outpost on Tau 13 moved fast. But it wasn't shared openly. No press release, no broadcasts, only quiet messages between leaders filled with panic and questions. One question echoed again and again. Who was that human? In the deep cold of space, Commander Relvek stared at the footage again. A shadow moving through fire, a human-shaped ghost killing elite soldiers like they were made of paper. He still couldn't believe it. Humans weren't supposed to be like this. Not anymore. Not after the war. He remembered the stories. The humans who used to fight with weapons made from star cores. The ones who never surrendered, even when their cities fell. But those were legends. Things told to scare young recruits. This wasn't a story anymore. This was real, and it was getting worse. The communications tower on Brisna 9 was taken out next. A single human had walked into the base, pretending to be injured. The medics let him in. 5 minutes later, the power grid exploded, and every officer inside was found unconscious. Not dead, just left with a message carved into the wall. We don't forget. Relvek sat with his advisors, staring at a galaxy map. The red dots were growing. Attacks, disappearances, ships vanished, bases destroyed, all in silence. No threats, no broadcasts, just signs, symbols from old human groups, long gone. This is not just one man, said General Dornar, his tentacles twitching with stress. This is coordinated. No, Relvek said, shaking his head slowly. This is worse. The others looked at him. Relvek whispered, this is revenge. On a cold moon, hidden beneath ice, a small human team gathered. They wore black armor, with no markings. Their faces were calm, focused. At the center stood a woman named Alira, a former GDF commander who had gone underground decades ago. Kane 17 had been her brother. She watched the hologram of his last moment. The execution, the silence, the smile. She didn't cry. She only nodded once, and then gave the order. Activate the dust protocol. Her team moved. Old war satellites woke from sleep. Ancient codes were sent through ghost channels. Across the galaxy, buried weapons rose, from craters. Machines built for war and hidden after the fall of Earth turned toward the Zareth systems, not to destroy cities, but to erase their control. No more broadcasting towers. No more scanners, no more drone factories. Humanity wasn't trying to conquer. They were trying to cut out the eyes of the enemy, make them blind, make them afraid. Meanwhile, on a neutral trade station orbiting Ivalon 6, a strange event happened. A lone human man sat at a bar drinking water. He looked young, quiet, nothing special, but when a Zareth bounty hunter approached him, demanding ID, the man looked up and said just 3 words. You killed Kane. The hunter laughed, but he didn't laugh for long. Security footage showed the fight lasted only 8 seconds. 1 human, 6 armed aliens, all down. The man walked out, calm. But the bar? It was marked with a new symbol afterward, one no one had seen in decades, GDF Unit 09. Echo's division. Back in the Zareth capital, Chancellor Threx received a secret report. His claws trembled as he read it. Earth might not be as dead as they believed. A deep scan found energy signatures under the ruins. Movement, signals. Someone, or something, was still alive down there. He ordered a fleet to check it, but deep inside, he already knew. They hadn't killed the last human. They had woken the ones who never stopped watching, and now The silence after the execution had become a storm of whispers, a storm of ghosts, and in every system the humans touched, they left no screams, only signs, only echoes, because the humans had learned one thing from being hunted. Sometimes the dead speak louder when they don't say a word. The fear was quiet at first, just whispers in dark rooms, nervous looks in the halls of command. Small changes, extra guards at outposts, drones flying lower, captains locking their ship doors at night. But fear spreads fast when you don't know. What's hunting you? And now, every alien in the Zareth systems had started to feel it. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Commander Relvek stood in the war room, staring at a galaxy map full of blinking red dots. Each one meant another system gone. Dark. Not destroyed. Not taken. Just missing. "We don't know where they are," his top scout said, voice shaking. "Our drones don't return. Our ships lose contact. It's like they disappear." Relvek didn't speak. He had already seen the pattern. The humans weren't launching big attacks. They weren't blowing up cities. They were picking systems, one by one, turning off the lights, removing control, cutting communication, making the Zareth blind and alone. But why? Relvek turned to his second-in-command, General Dornar. "Do you believe in the old stories?" Dornar blinked. "The stories about Earth's ghosts, about the black signal?" Relvek nodded. Dornar looked down. "I thought they were lies. Fear weapons made to scare us during the war, but now they weren't so sure." On the planet Mer Thun, a Zareth prison camp held the last known group of human survivors. About 30 people, weak, starved, kept underground. They had been there for years. No weapons, no contact with the outside. Galaxy. But then one morning, every door in the prison opened at once. The guards were gone. Not dead, just vanished. And in the sky above the prison, floating like a warning, was an old Earth satellite. Still working, still scanning. Inside the prison, the humans didn't run. They stood calmly, because they knew. This wasn't rescue. This was a message. Someone had told them, "We're not forgotten." One of the older prisoners whispered, "The echoes are real." The fear reached Chancellor Threx next. Inside his throne room, protected by walls of steel and guards with plasma rifles, he should have felt safe. But he didn't. He kept looking over his shoulder, checking the shadows, listening for things that weren't there. He didn't even know why he was afraid. And then he received the transmission. No words, just a sound. It was like wind through ruins, like metal groaning under pressure. And then, just at the end, a voice. A human voice. It whispered one sentence. "You killed the wrong one." Threx dropped the glass he was holding. It shattered on the floor. The guards looked at him. "What was that, Chancellor?" He couldn't speak, because the voice sounded like the human they had executed. Kane, 17. But Kane was dead, wasn't he? On the edge of known space, a human ship appeared for the first time in 50 years. It wasn't new. It looked broken, like something out of a graveyard, but it moved fast, silent, purposeful. Inside were 5 humans dressed in black. Illyra, the leader, stared ahead. Her eyes didn't blink. "We take their voice next," she said. The crew nodded. Their mission was simple: cut off the Zareth Central Broadcast Tower. Without it, they couldn't send orders, couldn't cry for help. The humans didn't want war. They wanted isolation. They wanted fear, and it was working. The Zareth fleets didn't know where to go. Ships were fighting shadows. Pilots fired at ghosts. Some even turned on each other. The system was cracking, and still the humans said nothing. No demands, no flags, just one truth whispered through the galaxy. You should have never touched us. Relvek sat alone in his quarters. He couldn't sleep. Every screen showed the same thing: dark systems, missing soldiers, silent stations. He pulled up the footage of the execution again, watched Kane smile. That smile still haunted him, because now he understood it. It wasn't a smile of peace, it was a warning, a signal to every hidden human across the stars. Begin! And now they had. The galaxy hadn't just awakened the past, they had called back the dead, and the dead don't forgive. The galaxy was changing. It wasn't loud. There were no giant space battles, no fleets crashing into each other, just silence and fear. System after system went dark. Whole planets stopped responding. Outposts emptied without a sound. Patrol ships returned with no crew on board, just blinking lights and strange markings on the walls. The Zareth Empire tried to act strong. They said it was technical problems. They blamed pirates. But no one believed that anymore, because the symbols were human, old military codes, forgotten Earth flags, messages that said one thing: you started this. Now you end it. On the edge of the Bernard cluster, a massive Zareth warship floated near a dying star. The crew had picked up a strange signal, one that pulsed like a heartbeat. Captain Varric stared at the display. The signal came from inside the star. Impossible, he muttered. They sent a probe. It burned. They sent another. It vanished. And then something came out. Not a ship, not a weapon, a figure, a human, floating in space, alive. Varric's second-in-command gasped. That's not possible. They can't survive this heat. But the human did. He stared at the warship and then raised his hand. A moment later, the ship's lights flickered. Alarms screamed. The engines stopped. Gravity failed. All systems dead, and the figure gone. Only a message left behind on every screen. You killed one. We are many. Back on Zareth Prime, Chancellor Threx was losing control. He slammed his fist on the table as generals argued around him. We must strike Earth again, one shouted. Earth is ashes, another replied. This isn't Earth. This is something else. A scientist stood quietly in the corner. He finally spoke. I think we misunderstood humans, Threx growled. They're just animals with emotions. Angry, loud, stupid. The scientist shook his head. No. They were hiding. They let us believe we won. But now they're showing us what they really are. Threx scoffed. And what is that? The scientist said softly. Shadows, ghosts, survivors, monsters when provoked. Far across the stars, Elira stood on a dead moon, surrounded by machines from the old Earth wars. She and her team had awakened something buried long ago. Not weapons, ideas, programs, human-designed AI systems, each one built to spread chaos, confusion, and fear, not to destroy, but to disappear. We begin Phase 3, she said. Star Choke Protocol. The AIs moved. They slipped into Zareth systems, quietly. No hacking battles, no alarms. They shut down trade routes, broke communication chains, slowed power grids, and soon Zareth ships stopped reaching their destinations. Messages delayed by weeks, planets left waiting for orders that never came. And all the while, the humans stayed hidden, watching, studying, waiting. On the peaceful moon of Kaloon, families started vanishing. Entire cities were found empty overnight. No bodies, no blood, just silence. And symbols carved into the buildings. The same symbol, Kane's number, 17. It had become a ghost story. Alien children whispered about it. Guards refused to patrol at night. One old soldier looked at the symbol and said, "This isn't just a warning. This is a countdown. Relvek had never felt true fear before, but now he did. He stood alone, watching old Earth War footage, black and white videos from centuries ago, cities burning, human soldiers fighting to the last man, laughing while bleeding, screaming with fury. Winning battles they should have lost. He had thought they were extinct. He had been wrong. Now he understood the truth. Humans weren't banned from the galactic war because they were weak. They were banned because they were too strong, too wild, too dangerous. And now, they were reminding the galaxy why. It started with a whisper, not from a voice, but from the machines. One by one, Zareth starships began picking up a strange signal. A soft pulse, a low hum, nothing that made sense, but the machines responded. They turned toward it, and some never turned back. On the Zareth carrier Vorgon's Pride, the crew watched in horror as their ship drifted off course. The pilot screamed, "I'm not touching the controls!" Lights flickered. The engines slowed. Then, silence. Every screen on the ship lit up with the same message. In old Earth code, "Black signal active. Step back or vanish." Captain Duran stared at the words, unable to breathe. "It's real," he whispered. "The black signal is real." The signal was a myth, an ancient weapon system humans had once created, a digital ghost that moved through satellites, infected ships, turned machines into spies. It wasn't supposed to exist anymore. But it was back, and it was angry. On a distant planet called Vecra 2, Chancellor Threx held an emergency meeting with the last remaining War Council. Only 5 members remained. The others were either missing or had gone mad. "The humans are not using ships," one counselor said, trembling. "They're using our own systems, our own machines, our own minds." Another shouted, "This is psychological warfare. They want to make us lose without firing. A shot!" But one voice spoke calm and cold. "Relvek," he stepped forward. "We executed the wrong man. Kane 17 was not just a soldier. He was a key." Threx narrowed his eyes. "A key to what?" Relvek looked around the room. To the lock that kept the black signal asleep. And now it was awake. In the old human sector, Elira and her team watched from a dark base buried beneath an asteroid belt. They had done what Kane wanted. They had carried his message through the stars. They didn't want a war. They wanted to end one. "This isn't about revenge," Elira said to her crew. "It's about memory. We tried peace. We tried silence. They chose death." She activated the final beacon. From there, the black signal spread fully, jumping through wormholes, climbing comm relays, digging into every Zareth system like a virus with a mind. Within hours, entire fleets were grounded. Weapon systems refused to fire. Some Zareth soldiers turned on their own officers, mind broken by strange dreams and signals that whispered, "You are prey now." On a small moon in the Ruinax belt, a young Zareth technician found an old, half-buried human ship. Curious, he entered the dark wreck. Inside, the lights flickered on by themselves. On the walls, thousands of names were etched in strange Earth letters. He didn't recognize them, but one name glowed red. Kane 17. Suddenly, a voice spoke, not from a speaker, from inside his head. "We were quiet. You chose noise. We were kind. You chose pain. Now we choose." The technician fell to his knees, clutching his head. "Please, I didn't kill anyone." But the voice didn't stop. It said one final thing. "You will remember us." The ship exploded seconds later, taking the moon with it. Now the Zareth knew. This wasn't war. This was judgment. The black signal had no army, no central command. It was everywhere and nowhere. It spoke with every Ship, every station, every drone, and its voice was human, not shouting, just quiet, certain, deadly. A message that kept repeating in every system now, broadcast into every Zareth home, school, and city. You killed one. You woke us all. The galaxy had gone quiet. No more warships in the sky. No more messages from the Zareth command, only silence. But in that silence, something deeper had awakened. An echo. His name was Kane, 17, dead. But not gone. The black signal had spread across systems like a storm with no wind. It left no fire, no smoke, only fear and the slow collapse of everything the Zareth had built. At first they blamed hackers, then rebels. But soon, they whispered, a name they were told never to speak again, Kane. In the Zareth archive on planet Vrel 5, a group of scientists unlocked a forbidden human file. It had been sealed since the last war. The file was simple, one video, no sound. Kane 17 standing. In front of a burning human city, his face was dirty. His eyes were calm. He held a small device in his hand, something old, something dangerous. Then, he smiled. The screen cut to black. At the bottom, 5 words appeared. If I fall, remember me. And now, the galaxy was remembering. Because his voice was back, and it spoke through every machine. Elira stood at the edge of a destroyed relay tower, staring out into a sky filled with floating wreckage. Her team had completed their last mission, cutting the Zareth's final link to their central command. But something still pulled at her heart. Not anger, not victory, just sadness. Kane had been her brother, not by blood, but by choice. She remembered how he used to say, "The stars don't need war. They need warning." And he had warned them. He had tried. They hadn't listened. And now? The warning had become a weapon. Back on Zareth Prime, Chancellor Threx was a broken shell of a leader. The great city was quiet. Ships frozen in ports. Satellites burned from the sky. He sat alone in the war room, staring at flickering screens. Every one of them showed the same symbol. The mark of Kane 17. Relvek entered quietly. The people are leaving the cities, he said. There's no power, no orders. The machines don't work. It's over. Threx looked at him with empty eyes. It can't end like this. We ruled everything. Relvek didn't smile. You ruled with fire. But humans, they remember in silence, Threx whispered. What do they want? Relvek answered, Not revenge. Then he added, They want us to know we were wrong. Across forgotten Earth colonies, the signal had stopped spreading, but its echo remained, not as fear, but as a story. Young aliens began to speak of Kane not as a villain, but as a ghost of warning, a protector, not of humans, but of balance. And in old human ruins, the machines slowly turned off. Quiet. Peaceful. Waiting for the next time someone thinks they can erase a people without consequence. Elira stood in the dust, placing a small plaque into the ground. It had one name, Kane 17, and below it, a sentence in both human and Zareth languages. You forgot us once, never again. She saluted, then walked away. The stars were quiet again, but not because they were safe, because they remembered. Years passed, the war was over, but no one celebrated. There were no fireworks, no victory speeches, no parades, only quiet, only memory. The Zareth Empire, once so powerful, had become something else, scattered, silent, ashamed. Their great cities stood still. Their weapons were useless. Their ships, empty. They had not been destroyed by fire or bombs. They had been broken by something far worse, a single human who refused to die quietly. His name had become legend, Kane 17. His face, once feared, was now painted on walls across. Old colonies, human and alien alike. Not as a soldier, but as a reminder of what happens when cruelty meets silence, of what happens when justice waits and strikes only once. Elira now lived on a small moon station orbiting a dead star. No soldiers, no fleet, just a garden and an old radio that picked up only one signal, a whisper, a pulse, the last heartbeat of the black signal. Sometimes she would hear Kane's voice in it, just one sentence, over and over. We remember. That's what makes us human. And she did remember, the way he stood, the way he fought, the way he never begged when the Zareth executed him. He didn't ask for mercy. He gave them a choice, and they chose wrong. Now the galaxy remembered that moment and whispered 3 words wherever darkness returned. Never again. Humans. In hidden places. Some still feared a second wave. They called it the reckoning. But it never came, because it didn't need to. The message had been delivered, the lesson burned into the stars. No race, no empire, no species would ever again try to wipe out humanity. Not because humans were gone, but because they were everywhere now, not in bodies, but in systems, in signals, in shadows, in the mind. One day, a Zareth child walked into an abandoned temple on Vrel 5. He saw a metal wall filled with carvings. Human names. Zareth names. Names of the lost. At the center was one word, written in every language. Remember. The child asked his mother, "Who was Kane?" She knelt beside him. "A man who died for peace," she said softly, "but had to teach with war." The boy looked up. "Is he still out there?" His mother didn't smile, but she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "in every silence." Far across the galaxy, in the dark edge of known space, an old probe floated alone. Its lights still blinked. Its system still ran, and in its memory banks, one file remained untouched. A message. From Kane 17, to anyone who would one day listen. We offered peace. You chose pain. We answered not with hate but with memory. If you find this, choose better. Then the signal ended. The stars remained quiet, but they would never forget. Because now even the aliens knew humanity was never gone, just waiting, watching, and remembering never again.